Juan Pablo, thanks for joining us today. The news is that IndyCar and Motorsport Network have teamed up to launch this global survey. How important is it, do you think?
I think it's really important to understand where IndyCar stands. I think people worldwide really care for IndyCar more than they think. And I think it would be a good way of showing where they need to go, what they need for the races. I think it's very much what, Roger and everybody at IndyCar, think about is how to make a better show, what people think of the show, how can we improve the show, what do we need to make it better, and they really care for what people think. I think in America, understanding the show and making sure it's the best experience for a fan, it's what they really are after. You know what I mean? If people are interested in watching the races and enjoying the races, and when they go to the racetrack, they have a good experience, it's always great. It's a shame, like nowadays, I mean, right now it's very difficult, but, when I ran IndyCar, we used to go to Australia and always used to be a huge event, used to go to Japan. And, I know they tried in Europe and it wasn't a lot of success in Europe. It's just a different market. But I think there's a lot of really good opportunities out there for IndyCar.
I mean, obviously, as you said there, it's global, but what is it about IndyCar that makes it so special, do you think?
Well, the way people look at it, IndyCar is like, what Formula One is for Europe with with what you could call in America open wheel. That's IndyCar in America. You know what I mean? It's the top of motorsports in America and open wheel. And, the Indy 500 is such a big event. It's incredible. It's one of the biggest, shows watched on TV and everything. And it's an amazing race. So to be able to grow the sport, I think that's the right word is, grow the sport, get more manufacturers involved. And I think Roger is probably working a lot on that. If you can get the extra manufacturer, they're going with a hybrid system in a couple of years. So there's a lot of things in the pipeline that are going to make the car more interesting. Of course, there's always complaints. They need to come up with a new car. They need to do this. They need to do that. But, from the driver point of view, that's what you always want. You want something newer and better.
Yeah.
The owners don't want to change because it costs money. And it's always that difficult balance. And at the end of the day, we got to put a good show. And I think if you always watch an IndyCar race, one of the cool things is you never know who's going to win it. You know what I mean? You go into race weekend, it's always open. That is very different from Formula One. When you go to a Formula One race, or you're going to watch Formula One race, it's going to be either a Red Bull or Mercedes, at least up to this year. Next year with the rule changes, it might change a little bit. But up to now, that's been the case.
Why are Formula One drivers heading to IndyCar?
I think it's a really good escape from the atmosphere. It's a lot better atmosphere. It's a lot more relaxed, and it's a good opportunity to extend your career. You look at people that had talented to win races in Formula One but never got the opportunity. They go to IndyCar and they end up winning races and championships and things like that. I think it's a good way of exploring your career. I think hypercars and LMDH is going to be another good way of doing it. So I think as a race car driver, there's going to be more opportunities now that it used to be to have a proper career. Of course, you still, when you're young, you still want to aim at Formula One and try to get there. But I think a good opportunity for sure is the IndyCar way.
What about you personally? What was it that appealed to you about IndyCar, and what did you enjoy most?
Well, for me, it was funny because I was such a fan of Sonardi and the Target car back in the day when they used to win everything. And we used to, I actually lived in Cambridge at the time, and I was racing Formula 3000. And I, you end up watching all those races, and I was such a big fan of Alex and everything. And to realize that a couple of months later, I was going to be actually driving his car. I replaced Alex, and it was unbelievable. It was an amazing opportunity, and we made the most out of it. In the first year, we won 7 races and everything, and won the championship. So it was really, really good.
And you said earlier, you know, that IndyCar can be a bit unpredictable, whereas Formula One, you sort of can gauge who might be the front runners. Is that also something that adds to the excitement?
I think adds to the excitement, but adds to the frustration when you have a good car and a good week. Because it's from my personal point of view, I think it's bad because when you're competitive and you're having a good week, you're trying to run the best strategy as possible. And if you're off the pace, you're going to do something completely crazy that, you know, that you need a lot of luck, that the caution needs to come out at the right time. And if it does, you end up in the lead. And if you're leading and you didn't pit, you end up 15 and it ruins your day. But it's part of what IndyCar is. And it's exciting. It's frustrating as hell, but it's exciting.
Once we get the results back from this global fans survey, what are you expecting to see?
I think they're going to see that there's a lot of fans and a lot of people want to watch more races in a lot of different places. I think Australia, you're going to see a lot of that. I think Latin America want probably IndyCar back. Probably Asia would be a good place to have an IndyCar race. I think Europe is difficult. I think Europe, the Europeans are, the way they look at and think of Americans is nearly impossible to have a good race. You know, it's like if you look at F1 in Europe, in my opinion, most of the fans that go there are not really Americans.
What ideas do you have then to make it a bit different? If you could change something, what would it be?
If I could change something, I would probably make the car better. That would be, you know, I think the car had its cycle already, and I would do two things. I would make probably a newer car with the same safety things and everything, but everything integrated from the word go, especially with the hybrid system, and I would put a power steering on it.
Okay, would that be your ideal Indy car then?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays every top racing in motorsports, you got power steering and everything, and it's not necessary. It's like when we went to paddle ships, and it was the right way of doing it. It was the next step, and power steering is part of that process. You know, you can. You know, if you want to say you're a purist, why do you have paddle shifts? You should have a stick and you should be, you know, shifting old style, but you don't. You already, you know, IndyCar wants to have the technology, wants to have everything. And I think it would open the doors for female racers and everything to have the power steering, because without the power steering, it makes it really tough.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Now, what about different chassis and tyres? Would you look at changing any of that?
I think Firestone does a really good job with the tires. The hard thing is the same thing you see with Pirelli. There's no competition, so there's no need to spend a lot of money on fancy materials and crazy tires, because you know, why are you gonna spend X amount of dollars more for no reason? You know what I mean? If the tire is good, it's consistent. You have the, you know, especially they have this, you know, the soft tire and the regular tire, and you know, it's not bad. And in the ovals, the tire works well. It's consistent. It's safe. It's everything what they need to do. I think the cars just got heavier and heavier. And if you look at everywhere, the cars are getting pretty heavy. But the problem is, you look at F1, the cars get heavier, but they get designed every year as a new car. With the IndyCar, this is the DW12, isn't it? We're like 10 years old already. Yeah. And since then, we added things. You know, they added a lot of panels, intrusion panels, and now they're gonna add the hybrid system, and they put the, you know, the, how do you call that, the halo and the windshield and everything. So I know it's a work in progress and everything, and the budgets are very different, but at some point you need to go and say, okay, we need the evolution of this. I think this is where we're going. This is what we need as a, you know, I mean, this is where the future of IndyCar is. This is the cars, the engines we want to build, the hybrid systems we want to have, and have everything integrated in a much better way. I think it would be a good thing to do, personally speaking. And then you can run a chassis for another 10 years. But, you know, when does it going to stop?
No. Well, it's always constantly evolving, as we know. Now, my final question to you is, if you had a team Who would you choose to give a full-time drive to, looking around at the talent and the drivers that are around all over the world? Because this is global after all. Who would you choose?
Including F1 drivers or anybody?
Yes, anyone.
I would pick probably, Max. You would have to pick Max for sure. Would be like the logical choice. And a young guy like Lando would be really good. If you look from the IndyCar side, if I had an IndyCar team, I would probably pick Pato as one of my two guys, and then an experienced guy, a guy like Dixon or somebody like that with a lot of experience.
Yeah, I mean, good choice there. I mean, I think we're blessed that there are a lot of young drivers coming through where we can certainly see the talent as they, move forwards. So as ever, Juan Pablo, great to talk to you today. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing what the results are from this fan survey, and good to talk to you.
All right. Thank you so much.